Well, from the beginning, when you finish nursing school, you have your graduation. Your nursing school will send your information to the board of nursing in that state, and then they will let you know that you are able to sign up for your NCLEX. And then you normally you do that. I would say 2 weeks, within 2 weeks after finishing nursing school and graduation. And then you're trying to sign up for your NCLEX within 30. You want to do it between 30 to 90 days for the best outcome. After you take your NCLEX and you pass your boards, then you're officially a registered nurse. That's what makes you a registered nurse, passing your board. And then they register you, so they officially give you your number, so you're able to practice. Because when you go to hospitals or different places, they're able to look on the board of nursing for that state to see that you're registered and that you have a clean license, and you're able to practice. Did I answer the question? I think that goes with whatever state that you're at. I know the states that I'm in, you're not able to do that. You have to know something about the person. You have to know their like address. You have to know something like their birthday. You have to know their social. You have to have some kind of identifiable. It's not something that you just put on the internet and you look up and Google someone's name. So I think it depends on the states. But now I think the states are going to see that that's something that's private. No one should be able to access your registered number to be a nurse. And because that's what they use when they want to look you up for employment. They go to the board of nursing register to see what's on your license and if it's current or not. So those are some of the things that you want to be aware of. But yeah, I was really surprised that in some states that that is public knowledge, and it shouldn't be, because people can make up things all the time, especially if they don't like you. I've had people make up stuff. There was a guy from one of my neighbors. I went to school, elementary school, middle school, junior high, high school. I finished school, and he was obsessed with me from day one, from kindergarten. And I never, I really wasn't into him. Well, him and his father waits until after I finished school, and his father decides he's going to be a patient at the hospital that I was working at. They kept requesting me, and I'm like, I'm not going down here because number one, it's not on the floor where I'm working at. And they kept requesting me and going to like, oh, we will only have Nicole. And I was like, why? So they would, wanted me to work with him. Well, finally, he was able to leave. He was there for, I think, chest pain, something basic. But for his age, he was there for a few days. Back in those days, they for chest pain, they made you stay in the hospital about 3 days. So they discharged him. I went to another hospital the next state over. Do you know these people got in their car and drove to the other hospital in the next state and went to my boss and started complaining that I was an unfit nurse and all yada yada yada. This I had all of these false accusations. So my boss brought me in the office. He was like, "There's this man and his son, and they keep coming in here complaining about you. What are you doing to these people?" And I was like, "Who?" And then when he told me the names, I was like, "That's my neighbor from." This is a guy who liked me from all the way through elementary school, middle school, junior high, high school, and his father. And he said, "There's another guy who was there who kept saying none of this was true." I said, "That was the good brother." I mean, it was really crazy. So I told my boss, I said, "Number one, I didn't take care of him at this hospital. It was at another hospital. Look up their records." So my boss came back to me the next couple of days. He was like, "I looked up. This man has never been at this hospital." I said, "Yes, I know. You're going to tell me these people on drive from another state just to complain about you. I said, yes. And I remember I went out with him, to give him a chance when I was in school. And when he found out I was in school, his mother was a housewife. So he wanted me to be a housewife. And I was like, I'm not quitting my education just to sit at home and look at you. No, it doesn't work that way. And from there on, they would try to find what school I was at. And I would have to tell them I was at another school that I really wasn't at. And, it was just crazy. So yeah, nurses need to have their privacy. Luckily I was able to tell my boss, who this was. And I was like, okay, when were they here? Pull out the record. And there was no record of him being I was taking care of him at that hospital. And when he was in the other hospital, he was on another floor that I wasn't even working on. So yeah, so thank goodness, I was able to figure that out. And my boss was like, oh, this doesn't even make sense. I said, why is this guy following you with your job? That doesn't even, I said, that's what they did. They followed me, try to find where I was at school also. I would always tell them I was at the opposite school that I was at, so they wouldn't bother me. But yeah. So also, I worked in a small town as a nurse, and people would show up. They knew my mother. My parents are from a small town, and I worked at the small town hospital. People started showing up at my mother's yard complaining, oh, my mom is coming out of the hospital. We didn't like the way you did this and did that and did this, and you didn't treat her right. And I was like, honey, I have 8 patients. Who is your mother? Okay. I also had somebody come every time I would walk into the room. She would fall. She would wait till she was beside me, and she would fall. And she complained that I didn't catch her. My question is, how many times are you going to fall? And how many times are you going to just, roll in the floor? I said, what I need to do is just get away from you. Only time she would do that, and she knew my parents, it was when I would go in there, and she went to the administration and complained, I'm falling and she doesn't catch me. I'm like, I'm 5'1". This woman was 6 foot. Okay. Ma'am, I'm very, very sorry, but I don't think catching is in my job description. Maybe you should stay in the bed or use a walker or something. But to complain that I'm not catching you each and every time you're falling, and when she would call me in the room, I was at the door. I was like, okay, well, thank you for letting me know. But she wanted me to catch her every time, and for some reason she would only have this falling episode was when I was in there. So it just didn't make sense. But some people, they make up things. They want attention, or they're jealous of you, and as I have explained, I've had these scenarios happen. It didn't even make sense. I'm like, and this person is like, well, I could sue the hospital and we could all get some money. I'm like, who is we? You're not going to sue the hospital over me when you're out here pretending to fall. And, when she got out the hospital, she was like, I was trying to make some money. The hospital can give me money if I complain enough. And if I say I was injured. And I was like, I don't play those games. You don't play with my license, so people will do some things that don't even make sense. Anything else? Well, like I said, I think that You need to keep nursing licenses private. You should be able to access it through the board of nursing, but that's only an employer should be able to access it. It should not be available to the general public because, like I said, people will make up stuff for no reason, or they're try to pretend to be a nurse. And then this person had a lot of complaints against them because they're doing things that it doesn't make sense. Nurses know basic nursing culture. So it's certain things that you should know as a nurse. Some people just think that, you just go in there and you just do what a doctor tells you to do. And that's not what nursing is. It's a complete nursing and medicine are complete two different segments. They're two separate. They're separate. And even though sometimes they work together, but they're still two separate entities. People still think that a doctor has to validate you or approve of things that you do. No, they don't. We can practice independently. And just because a doctor writes an order, if it does not resonate with us, we have a right to deny that and refuse to do that and say it does not make sense. This is not what I'm going to do. And I've had instances where I've had to speak up about that. But yes, nursing licenses should be private, only accessible for employers who can go to the website for board of nursing and find the nurse that is registered and licensed and to check their license. The general public should not have access to anyone's nursing licenses or numbers. Well, I definitely would keep track of that information. I definitely would have written letters to my Congress people, to the governor, written some letters to the president. Definitely would have gotten the FBI and the CIA involved, your local police departments, your local sheriff department. You have to just keep saying there's a problem out here. This person is saying that there are me. I would have called around to some hospitals to see, to ask them, is this person working there? And to let them know that this person is using my identification and it's not me. So I think that those are some of the things that you may have to do. And you need to document who you're calling, who you're talking to when you talk to them, and have a paper trail. And also let the board of nursing know when you're doing these things that you're reporting this issue to these other authorities and authority departments. Now, I do real estate and I've worked for Medicaid. So I would have found this little girl. That's what I do. I would have found her. I would have went to the hospital where she's supposed to be working at and would have been following her home to see what's going on. Who are you? Why are you doing this? Confront her. Those are some of the things that I would have done. No, 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 and no. I disagree altogether. If she's not a nurse and she was practicing fraudulently, then there has to be some disciplinary because we don't want this to continue. We do not want random people deciding they want to be a nurse. They just going to take somebody's name and show up at a job. That we cannot continue that behavior. So we have to have some discipline for this person. And she does need some jail time, definitely. Because you have the power to hurt someone. You have access to medications given in the wrong way to injure somewhere. Like I remember when I was practicing and we had a Pixie system. We had IV potassium, PO potassium, and IV potassium. If you give it enough of it, that's what they give prisoners when they are doing those lethal injections. Okay, so if you had someone who did not know any better, they could have pulled up some potassium and put it straight in somebody's veins and did not realize and did not know that that's what they use for executions. And they could have hurt someone. So we had to, as a hospital and as a department, we had to go to the pharmacy. Said this is should not be accessible to the staff. Where you can just open a drawer and you have potassium and you have to draw it up. We had to put our foot down and said this is something the pharmacy should be doing. That is a pre mixture that should be done in pharmacy, not on the floor because it's too dangerous. And somebody could have hurt somebody or killed someone. That does sound like a lot. I remember back in the old days when I was in nursing, we had certain schools that you can take if you were an LPN, you could go back to school to be an RN, but it was in a different state. And like they wanted you to move there for maybe a month or two so you can do your clinicals or what have you. And a lot of nurses were doing that. And that was a lot. I just went the old fashioned route. I just went to the community college, applied there, and stayed in my area because a lot of people don't know. Like these schools are advertising, and these nurses, they may go for a weekend, 3 days, and do all of their clinicals in 3 days for a whole 6 months. And then then they get their licenses and they may pass the boards in Florida, and then they go back to their hometown and then apply for their license in their hometown. A lot of that was going on back I would say in the 90s, where you had people who are coming from different states. But like I said, I just did it the old fashioned way. I just went in my hometown. Now, I wish I had gone to nursing school in the military and I had got my LPN in the military. but I chose not to do that. But I do wish I had. That would have been a way of starting my nursing career in the military. But yeah, that's people have been doing those things for a while now, and now it's catching up. Some people they're looking into, did this person really earn this degree? So I'm glad they're doing investigations, and I'm glad they're going to come up with some solutions to some of these problems with people who have bought their nursing degrees. It's very dangerous out here. But the other nurses who are on the floor, they're looking. They can tell, if you know how to, do basic skills such as pulling medicines from a syringe, able to use a Pyxis machine, certain things that you would know that a nurse should know who's been to nursing school. Go ahead. They're going to have to pivot, and hopefully they won't have to go to jail if they didn't hurt anyone. But that's really dangerous, to pretend to be in a health career that you're not. You have not had any training, and eventually it does catch up with you. Some of these people are, they're having some issues on their license. They're finding this person as poor performance on the job. So it is showing, it's taking a while, but it's definitely showing that when these people have not gone through the correct avenues to get their education, it shows. So hopefully all of these people will be caught, or they will all surrender their licenses. And if they want to go back and really take up nursing, they can. Or if they want to pursue something else, they can go move on to the next chapter in their life if they don't have to have any jail time. So it's up to them. Okay. Because I guess they're saying that they were able to pass the NCLEX is really about 75 to 260 questions. So, but the problem they're saying is they didn't have a right to sit for the NCLEX. That's what they're saying. So if they haven't done the classes, if they haven't done the clinicals, like in this state here where I'm at, you have to have 500 clinical hours to be able to pass nursing for a registered nurse and 400 for an LPN. So these people have to have the clinical hours to be able to sit for the boards. And what they're saying is that they did not go through the correct channels, and they do not have the credentials to sit for the boards. So that's a fake degree. Mhm. Correct. Even though over COVID, they were trying to say, oh, let the medical students out early, give them their degrees, let the nursing students out early, give them their degrees. And I'm sitting here like, I don't care. That is not appropriate. Those standards of schooling are there for a reason. And we have to make sure we stand on that foundation. They have to have a foundation. Because we've had so many nurses that were like, I'm coming out and I'm going to be a travel nurse. You need to take time to learn what the heck you're doing first. Do not get out here and run out and decide you want to be a travel nurse within, the first 2 years of graduating from nursing school. Because remember, whether or not, it doesn't matter. If you give the wrong medications and you're doing something and, you can have an accident, accidentally kill someone, you still go to jail. So slow down, learn the profession, and make sure you go through the proper channels so you can do everything correct. And they won't have to come back looking for you to see that, oh, you might have passed the NCLEX, but did you get all your clinical hours in? Did you sit in all your classroom? You know, and also when you're on the floor, are you doing things a normal nurse would do? Or are you taking shortcuts? So those are some of the things they have need to start looking into. Well, I think that they're just doing I would say, checkup more. They're, doing more investigations with people and checking their records. Now, I did hear that some of these people, women, some of these people were ordering cervix exams or specimens on male clients. And I'm like, so I'm like, okay, we got to make sure our documentation is appropriate. And we're ordering the correct test for the correct person. So I think that we have to be honest. We have to do what we're supposed to do. And some of these people were just, living a lavish lifestyle. And it can be hard when you're out here making a lot of money and, they have to also have integrity and do what they're supposed to be doing. So, it's a lot of fraud going on, but you have to, do what is right. So that's all I can say. And they're investigating, they're looking for you. I've worked in facilities and I've worked in done some things with Medicaid. They do want to come in and do their checks to see if your paperwork is correct, if you're doing things right. I mean, I've had last year I was inspected, and this year I was inspected. So everything must be okay. I haven't heard any bad things. But they do come out and do checkups on you. And also, I was interested in doing some things in mental health and starting a mental health business in crisis. And I was informed that the state was coming to visit people in the middle of the night. And I was like, I really don't think I want to start that business. That's a lot to have your business evaluated at night. And I don't want to be offering services 24 hours of the day. Yeah. So, you have to look at what exact business do you want, and do you want the backlash from it? Because that was a lot to me to hear that they want to come and do your credentials in the middle of the night. They want to come and check to see what you're doing in the middle of the night if you have certain types of businesses. So it's just deciding what you want to do. And they give you a rule book. Follow the rules of what you're supposed to be doing. Well, I have a business, and I've had some people threaten me with, oh, we're going to report this and report that. And I'm like, okay, I'm not doing anything wrong. And what I need to do is remove you from this situation. And that's what I did. I removed some people who felt that they had a sense of entitlement. And, if things don't go their way, and I've had some employees like that, if things don't go their way, now all of a sudden they're going to go to, the board, they're going to go to the fraud hotline. They're going to call assisted living. They're going to call all of these places. And they have shown up. And I'm able to prove that, I have a legitimate business. I'm running everything the way it's supposed to be. Could y'all please leave? And they go, yeah, there's nothing here. We had to investigate. There was a complaint, and there's nothing here. Okay, thank you. You have a nice day. And I'm like, okay, you too. Thank you for coming by. And that's it. And we move forward. And eventually, those people who I had to remove from my business are going to find another job and move on with their lives. But yeah, you have people who are like, oh, I'm going to take this and I'm going to take that. And I'm going to take your company and I'm going to take your house. And I'm like, wow, if you were really that powerful, why don't you get your own business? Why don't you get your own house? They're just sitting around making up stuff. So you have those types of people out there, and you have to stand up to them and say, this is not appropriate. I'm not going to live like this in fear of you because of your accusation. And I'm not going to do things wrong because you're saying, you're going to report this and you're going to report that. There's nothing here. So you have to stand up to people and, let them know, you can report whatever you want, but I guess I'll have to prove to them that, I'm doing things right. And that's what I'm doing. Mhm. Exactly. So you have to be on top of the people that you hire, and you have to train them appropriately and let them know. Like I have a new system with my agency, and we have to learn. The good thing is that if they put in something wrong, they can go in and correct it. The system I had before, you couldn't correct it, so we would end up getting bills for stuff that we couldn't that was sent in by accident. So, but yes, I'm on top of that. And then I realized I had to have a second set of eyes. So I hired somebody, and I have one person that's dedicated to all of the billing, who are also looking over all of these people. And I have to train them the way I want to run a legitimate business. And, I'm doing things much better now. And I have a much better staff now. So I had to let everyone go because of the way they were running it, the way they wanted to run my company. I'm like, no, that doesn't work. So I hired some people, and I had to stop what I was doing and say, let me train you as the way I want this thing run. So we can stay compliant with the government. We have to do things correctly. So, and that's what I had to do as a boss, even though, I was making good money, but all money is not good money. Sometimes you got to make sure it's appropriate. And that's what I had to do. So I had to slow down and say, okay, let's reevaluate. Let's make sure we're doing things correctly. And that's what we're doing now, and what we've always been doing. It was just slower back then. Now that I have more help, I'm able to do it a little faster. All right. Well, I just want, oh, go ahead. Mhm. Independent living home. Yes. Well, none of my people, to my knowledge, are on any opiates, but I have an independent. And an independent house means they're in charge of their own medicines. I do not collect their medicines and hold their medicines for them. I'm not in charge of their medicines. They are in charge of their own medicines. They keep their own medicines. What we do is give them medication reminders. We remind them to take their medicine. That's all we do. Hmm. Correct. That's what he has to do. I mean, back in the old days, we would have medicines and we would forget to waste it. And I would have tape it to the back of my badge, and I would get home and I would have Ativan. I'm like, oh my gosh. I had to get back in the car, go all the way back to work to have it wasted. And we had to get in the habit of making sure you check before you leave the floor. You have to check. Sometimes I would put a little card in my car and says check. Make sure you don't have any medicine. Make sure you don't have any keys. Make sure so I will not have to do this when I get home, come all the way back. But yep, they have to do that because they nobody else can get medicines. Well, one of the things I pivoted in with the nurse styles is that my children were really small, and this is my children on my cover of my book. This is Nathaniel, Nicholas, and Nicola, and they would ask me every day, "Mom, what do you do when you go to work?" Because at the time I was teaching nursing, I wore a white coat to work every day, and they were like, we thought you were a doctor or a dentist. What's a nurse? And I was like, oh my gosh, what do you mean? What is a nurse? You should know what a nurse is. And they were like, Mom, no, we don't. And this was back in 2009. And there was nothing on the market that I was able to pull to explain nurse. There were no nurse dolls. There were no nurse books. I mean, they were like antique stuff. It was stuff that was so old it didn't even make sense. And there was no representation of a person that I look like. There was nothing there about nursing in African Americans or Asian Americans or Hispanic Americans. And it didn't make sense. So that's how I started with the idea. And my children loved Dora. And Dora had the books, the videos, and the dolls. And I was like, okay, we need to do something with nursing. So that's how I started out with nursing, promoting nursing. And I started out with the books, and I was able to write the two books. N is for Nursing, Wash Your Hands. Wash Your Hands is available digitally. And then we expanded to the video in nursing. And then we expanded to the doll line. And that was between 2011 and 2015 is when the doll line came out. So I think 2012 for the books, 2013 for the books, 2014 for the video, and then 2015 for the dolls. So something came out almost every year. And, this is our 10-year anniversary, actually. November will be 10 years that we've had the nurse dolls, and we've been promoting nursing. And check us out at thenursedolls.com. And we promote nursing to the next generation. We would love for you to experience that. We have a lot of freebies on the website. We have the free workbooks for K to second grade and free workbook for third to fifth grade. We also have coloring pages and activities. And then we also have an activity box. That's 30 some pages. And that comes with the purchase of the doll. So, it's a lot of good things that we have, and we're promoting nursing. We would love to have a full curriculum. I'm definitely open to a partnership where we can add more to nursing and have some nursing programs promoting nursing to the next generation. So I'm hoping to work on some aspects of that. So like, share, follow thenursedolls.com, or I am Dr. Nicole Brown, whichever platform you follow me on, and so we can continue to connect. Any other questions, Corey? Yes, we do encourage nursing for boys. And actually, both of my sons just graduated from Virginia State in pre-med, and one is getting ready to go to medical school, and one is getting ready to go to nursing school. But I do have them, next time I'll do it with my boy dolls also. Now, when I pitched this to Walmart in, was it 2011, 2012, they said boy dolls do not sell. And they highly discouraged me from doing any boy dolls, because each one of I have 4 dolls. I also have an Asian and a Hispanic doll, and they all had their own husbands. And Walmart was like, no, no one buys boy dolls. So they highly discouraged me from producing a boy doll. But now that I have a son that will be going into nursing school, I definitely will have a nurse Nathaniel doll, and then I'll have Dr. Nicholas doll that I can add to it. So we have some boy dolls coming up, in a few years. All of these things take time. So just keep on supporting us, and we can do those things eventually. Okay. Check out thenursestyles.com. We have a lot of freebies on there. So just check us out. And, we need more nurses. So we want to encourage the next generation. The holidays are coming, And then we are kicking off my birthday event sale. We got some things going on coming in the next coming week. September will be my birthday. Of course, I'm going to have some good stuff for y'all. Okay. So check us out at thenursestyles.com and click like, share. On Facebook, I'm also, I am Dr. Nicole Brown. Thank you so much. Y'all have a great day and enjoy the rest of your day.